So as the world changes before us, what are you mourning? I think one of the major emotions many Americans are feeling right now is actually grief. What are you grieving? And how are you getting through it as we go forward? It's a fascinating conversation. Check it out, leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Yesterday, Louise and I were walking along the Columbia River. There's this kind of walking trail that we go on, and that's just a few blocks from our house. And when we would pass people, we would all move 6 feet apart, and I still have to come up with something better. If you have any suggestions, something better than happy pandemic. But because people are like, they're not talking to each other. And this is what my friends in Scotland and the UK were telling me over the weekend when we did this Zoom conference call. It was like, yeah, we go out for a walk and people stay away from you 6 feet away, but they also are afraid to talk to you. They don't even establish eye contact. And it's like, we don't know the new protocol. And so I'd just been trying to, break the ice and say happy pandemic for lack of something better. If you've got a better phrase, one guy said yesterday, he laughed. He says, I've never heard that one before. And most people laugh when I say it, but, it's kind of, dark humor, I guess you would call it. But it's like, trying to make something out of this incredibly gruesome situation. I mean, that's the sad and simple reality that we're all facing right now, is that because Donald Trump spent 2 months ignoring his own spy agencies, ignoring his own Department of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, for goodness sakes, the guy who doubled the price of insulin when he ran Eli Lilly, Alex Azar, the head of HHS, asked for $2 billion for personal protective equipment back in February. And the Trump administration cut that request down to cut it by 75%. But anyhow, as we're looking at this, we're all experiencing shock and anger and frankly nightmares. I mean, there was a period, it was like the week before last, where almost every night I was waking up in the middle of the night with bad dreams. That's largely past. I think, this is how we process stuff. I haven't had a nightmare or bad dream. None of them were nightmare quality, but they were bad dreams that were bad enough to wake me up. And this is how we process stuff. This is how our mind processes stuff. But about what we're dealing with here is how Donald Trump created this crisis in the United States and is now claiming that, 3,000 people died in China, but if 200,000 die here, I did a really good job. I mean, we now have more than twice as many confirmed cases in the United States, population 300 million, as China does, population 1.2 billion. You say, well, I don't trust the numbers out of China. Well, look at South Korea then. South Korea has had fewer than 300 deaths through this whole entire period, and they're only adding a couple every day. We're adding hundreds every day, and we're on the verge of adding thousands. I'm talking deaths, not new cases, every day here in the United States. So, as we're watching this guy lie and procrastinate and grandstand and BS us, and of course blame everybody in sight, there's a larger emotion, I think, beyond the fear that the nightmares may reflect or all this stuff. There's a larger emotion, I think, that's reaching deep into the lives of probably most all of us, and that's grief. I am grieving the loss of normalcy in my country. I am grieving the failure of our national leadership. I can't, in my lifetime, there has never been an administration this incompetent. And I think, frankly, in the history of the United States, there has never been an administration this incompetent. Herbert Hoover, when the stock market crashed in 1929, dithered and did nothing for 2 years, basically, on the advice of his Treasury Secretary, Andrew Mellon, who said, it'll just flush out the dead wood. The economy will come back much healthier if you just let these failing companies die. In fact, his phrase, Andrew Mellon's famous phrase, was, liquidate everything. Well, finally, by 1932, and throughout 1932, in fact, Herbert Hoover started putting into place stimulus measures. He got legislation passed. He got a Reconstruction Act put into place. Now, they weren't big enough. They were just a start, but he at least was trying to do something. Trump, he leaves it up to Nancy Pelosi. But so we're grieving the loss of, or the failure of national leadership. I can tell you, I am grieving the loss of my physical connection to my kids, the ability to go out and have dinner with them or visit them in their homes or sit around and play board games with them. We're trying to figure out ways around this, and not just my kids, my grandkids, my wife's mother, our parents. I think we're all grieving that. I think we're a nation in grieving, and we haven't come to terms with it yet. We're grieving the reality that we will soon be grieving the death of friends and family. We're seeing national figures. Chris Cuomo, CNN's Chris Cuomo, the brother of Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, was just diagnosed with COVID-19. He's got fever and chills. He says he's going to do his show from his basement. He's self-quarantining in his family's home. He's particularly flipped out that his mother came over a couple days ago because she's lonely. And his older brother, Andrew, had just given them hell for that. I mean, this is, we're grieving the loss of work. Work actually is an important thing. Work for many people gives some meaning to their life, in addition to a paycheck and benefits. We're grieving the loss of our paychecks. We're grieving the loss, I'm taking no pay anymore. We're grieving the loss of our, and I've got it, much better than most people. I still have something to do. And I still have a company that at least is supporting a couple of my employees. Knock wood. But I think, I know there are millions of Americans who are grieving the loss of their paychecks. And Donald Trump says, well, we'll send them $1,200. Right. Tomorrow's the first of the month. Today's the last day of March. Rent is due for many people. Mortgage payments are due. Credit card payments are due. Is a one-time $1,200 check going to help the way that help is needed? No chance. And yet the White House yesterday, when they were asked about Nancy Pelosi's suggestion that we should send a couple $1,000s to everybody in the country every month on a regular basis to keep people above float, like Germany is doing, and France is doing, and Denmark is doing, and Finland is doing, and Iceland is doing, and Norway is doing. And I mean, I could just go through the list, right? Like basically all the countries of Europe are doing. They said no. The White House said no. We want you. We've done our stimulus. No more spending. And several Republican senators have said the same thing. We'll get to that story as we continue. But, we're grieving the loss of income. And the rest of us are grieving the loss of income for the rest of us. I mean, those of us who have not lost income or who will be able to get through, are on Social Security or something, we're grieving the fact that our friends and neighbors, are losing their income. Yet we're figuring out ways through this crisis. I'm taking daily walks. I'm meditating. I found some exercise videos on YouTube that I'm doing.